Okay, so now that I've kind of gone into the option of Mutants and Masterminds, if you like a rules medium to a rules heavy type of supers game, but one that's still manageable and streamlined enough that I would recommend it over, say, GURPS, Supers, or Hero System, which I feel are, while you can get more out of them, they're a bit more complicated, at least in initial setup. You have to spend a little more time to kind of penetrate the rules, in my opinion. My personal opinion, I'll probably get flamed for that. But if you want something that's a little lighter on the rules, but still has a lot of options to it, and that has a very iconic kind of fast action, rock'em sock'em feel, I definitely highly recommend Basic Action Superheroes Ultimate Edition. I'm very happy to say, this is my first kind of official review request from a game designer. Um, um, and the I got a comped copy of this PDF, and I went out and I printed it in full color, and I had it bound at FedEx Kinko's, and it turned into a nice, beautiful little copy. Now, here's something interesting then, and this might be reminiscent for anybody who's played the old TSR Marvel Superheroes game. There's this difficulty table on here on the back that's not truly required for play, but it's kind of a geeky little thing that makes me smile, while at the same time being a useful tool to use at the table when running this game. Basically, this tells you, this is the difficulty table, so it tells you for a given difficulty number, as represented over here, difficulties 5, 10, 20, 30, 40, it tells you what you would need to roll in the game's engine in order to achieve that success, that degree of success. So it's a useful tool for GMs if you're trying to determine how hard you want something to be, or what you want your players to have to roll in order to succeed at something, so you can kind of gauge the challenge level. That the dice table on the back is very nice, and as I said, if you're an old hat who had played Marvel Superheroes, you'll kind of appreciate how visually it kind of reminds you of that. Bash is a very interesting game in that it uses a different idea for the core mechanics than most other games I've seen, in that unlike most other games that that especially these days that tend to either be kind of a roll under system or a roll and add versus difficulty number system, the core of Bash is a multiplier system. The whole game runs off of just 2d6, so you roll two six-sided dice and you add them together. But what sets it apart is that your character's attributes, powers, and skills are all rated in terms of multipliers. So let's, in an example of if your character had a strength score of ×2, you would multiply the result of the die roll by the multiplier of whatever ability it is that you're using, and that gives you the total result, which you compare against a difficulty. So if you have a super strong character, and the scale is pretty compacted in Bash, so you're on a scale of generally 1 to 5, with 1 being minimum, 5 being optimal, though certain things can push your modifiers above 5 if you're lucky. If you have a super strong character, say we've got a Superman type guy, he would have a strength modifier of ×5. He would roll two six-sided dice, and then he multiplies the result by 5. So if he rolled an average 7, he would, on average, succeed at anything that was difficulty of 35 or less. I apologize for the babies in the background, but so this is very interesting. I've never quite seen a system that approached that idea of multiplying die results, mainly because sometimes multiplication can get a little complicated for some people. But then again, that's where this table comes in handy, because it gives you the roll results right along here. Sorry, can't really see that. Along this left edge of the table, it gives you results from generally 1 to 25, and then it tells you based on what multiplier you're applying, what result it would be, and thus what difficulty you would actually achieve. Now you would ask, it's only 2d6, so why does the table go all the way up to a roll result of 25? Well, that's because another unique element that adds a really cool uncertainty factor to Bash is that anytime you roll doubles on the six-sided dice, you pick up another one and you roll it, and then you add that to the total again. So, and as long as you continue rolling doubles, or as long as you continue rolling the same number, you can keep picking up dice and adding them. So let's say you rolled 2 3s for a total of 6 on your dice. Well, then you would pick up a third die and you would roll it. If you rolled another 3, you would add that to your original result of 6, giving you a total of 9, and you would pick up another die and roll it, and then etc., etc. So as you can see, it's going to occasionally be very possible for you to roll incredibly high numbers, even only with 2 six-sided dice. Another interesting aspect to think about as well is that Snake Eyes is not, even though it's a roll high system, Snake Eyes isn't always necessarily a bad thing in this game, because Snake Eyes are considered doubles. So even if you rolled 2 1s, you could pick up another die and you could roll it again, and you might get lucky and add yourself a considerable modifier to your result, and you could still succeed. So just rolling double 1s doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to fail. In fact, it gives you an opportunity not to. It's very interesting in that it's simple. You basically have attributes, and then you have skills, and skills are also modifiers, but they build off of attributes. So most of your skills default. I didn't touch on the fact that there's only 3 attributes in Bash, which I think fits the design of the game quite nicely. You have brawn, which covers all of your basically physical, not only your strength but your toughness as well. You have agility, which represents speed, dexterity, and all that kind of thing. And then you have mind, which represents all of your character's intellect and willpower and personal charisma, all that kind of thing. And so generally you have 2 groups of skills, physical skills and mental skills. Your physical skills are generally based off of agility, and your mental skills are generally based off of mind. And so you acquire skill points that can influence the modifier beyond whatever the base modifier of its reigning attribute would be. But it's interesting in that it's got a pretty robust system of powers. I believe it's about 54, 55, 56 powers in there. But like Mutants and Masterminds, surprisingly, for a kind of small press, rules-like game, it's got a pretty robust system of extras and flaws, just like Mutants and Masterminds does. You've got all kinds of tweaks that you can add to enhance or reduce the effectiveness of your powers, and either cost you more character points or give you character points back for taking those limitations. Just like Mutants and Masterminds, it works off of a character point pool, and there's some example starting character levels that it says if you want to run a street level game, you should give your characters X number of points to build players X number of points to build their characters with. If you want to run a cosmic powered game, you give them this many, etc., etc. And those points are spent on your attributes, they're spent on your skills, and they're spent on your they're spent on your attributes and they're spent on your powers. The base number of skill points is just derived from the levels of your given attributes, but you can purchase something extra to give yourself additional skill points if you want them. It's a very fun game. I will admit I've created about 6 or 7 characters because I wanted to test how well the system did, and it does quite well. You're going to kind of have to play a little loose with some things, because you're not going to get exactly the detail that you want on some of these power combinations, or if you're trying to create some quirky characters. But there's enough there that you can work around to getting around to what you want to accomplish. And the artwork in here is actually pretty nice as well. The layout is pretty good, and they use, to great effect, they use some good tables, or some nicely designed tables and headers and that sort of thing. And there's really good artwork in here. Here's a good example of a full-page spread, and it's all done in the very kind of simplistic style of the animated DC cartoons, which I like a lot. And it's a lot of character-centric type of art, but it's just spread throughout. It's full color, and I really give props to the kind of polish that they gave to presenting this game, because it's a very attractive game. It really sets the mood for supers. And I think the core mechanic is really good. And even though for the longest time I was a pretty hardcore Mutants and Masterminds supers player, this makes a supers game a lot more approachable, especially for people who aren't familiar with the system, to get them to build characters quickly and efficiently. So highly recommended if that's the sort of thing you're into. If you want a supers game but you don't want to overload yourself on complicated rules, this is a very good way to go, and it's an excellent pickup game, I think, because it's a short book, it's easy to get into, but it gives you lots and lots of ideas. There's whole chapters about the eras of comics and how to tailor a game to playing a specific era, like Silver Age versus Bronze Age versus Iron Age. Lots of NPCs in the back. Great book. Highly recommended.